Hi, my name is Andy Park and I'm the Director of Visual Development at Marvel Studios. Me and a group of artists, we have the fun job of designing the characters that you see in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. We thought it would be a fun opportunity to give you a little bit behind the scenes glimpse into how we sketch, how we design a character, these heroes and villains. And in this case, I'm going to be drawing someone that's very near and dear to my heart, Natasha Romanoff, aka Black Widow. So check out this video. Hopefully afterwards you'll get a little bit something out of it. We're gonna make this drawing that I do available for download. So feel free to color it, to draw over it, to trace it. The whole point is to learn and to have fun. So with that said, let's get drawing. Okay, let's get started. Normally for my work, I use Photoshop, Adobe Photoshop, and I work digitally because in my job as a concept artist, I'm always making changes to my drawings, to my designs, based on the directors or the producers or sometimes the actors. So I need to be able to make changes very easily. So drawing digitally is just the easiest way to make changes. You can draw traditionally using paper and a pen and paper, but it's always harder to you have to erase all the time or do a new drawing. So I typically will do all my concept illustrations and my drawings in Photoshop for my job at Marvel Studios. So as you can see, this is the Photoshop layout. I'll usually start off, about 8.5 or by 11 pretty much, or 8 by 11 inches, 300 DPI. And I'll start sketching just using, a circle brush that's squashed. You can see in the lower right corner, and about 25% gray. And then I'll start sketching. And I'll start roughing out whatever I'm trying to draw. In this case, I'm trying to draw Black Widow, and I'm thinking of her in a, fairly not too actiony of a pose, but I want her to look like maybe she's walking forward, or she's walking down a corridor and she's seeking out Taskmaster, as you'll see in the upcoming Black Widow film, hopefully soon. So that's my thinking in doing this initial sketch. So I'm just trying to rough out, proportions, size of the head, the body, the pose, the flow of the hair. So a lot of times what you're seeing me do right now is just, doing adjustments. Like I can take a part of the head and just shrink it because I felt like it was a little too big, and then I can make some adjustments. You can also do this in Procreate if you have an iPad as well. So working digitally has these advantages where I can make these adjustments and make something larger, smaller on the fly, versus if I drew it on paper, which is totally fine. I used to draw comics for about 10 years, so I would have to erase and redraw it. So either way works, but I'm just taking advantage of the tools that I have in Photoshop. So, I can make some adjustments. I felt like the belt was a little too high, and I added a little bit of curvature. So what you're seeing is me just constantly making adjustments to the original sketch that I did. I feel like I have a good base to work off of. Now I'm just trying to refine, size of the foot, the details going up and down throughout the figure to figure out. And then I can zoom in and start doing, I don't want to go detail at this point. I'm still trying to just get the overall feel. I'm not thinking about lines. I'm thinking more about just the overall drawing, So I moved her head a little bit forward because I felt like that would make it a little bit more interesting than just, straight up and down. So going a little bit forward on the body makes her a little bit more ready for whatever's coming around the corner. I lowered the opacity and I added a new layer so that I can draw on top of the old drawing that I just did. And at this point, I am adding a little bit of details on the costume. Now that I have the general figure kind of blocked in, and I'm trying to figure out like, okay, now I can start drawing in the costume. But all this while, I'm not thinking about pretty lines. I'm not thinking about, okay, I need to get all these lines to look beautiful. I am merely just really going as fast as I can to just kind of rough in all the details. And then from, later on, you can, start refining more and more and start getting more and more of the pretty lines. I'm not necessarily going to be doing that in this tutorial because it's not about that. It's more about just my thinking when it comes to drawing, how I go about going from a blank page, start laying in details and figuring out the gesture, the character, the pose, the costume, and all that kind of stuff. So for this tutorial, I am drawing one of Black Widow's costumes that you're going to be seeing eventually in the theaters from the Black Widow film. So this is one of her costumes because she has a couple, and it's always fun to draw because this is a character that I had the honor of designing ever since Avengers, way back in when I was working on it. It was 2010. The film came out in 2012, but I designed all of Natasha Romanoff's costumes in all her film appearances since the Avengers, and it's really been a pleasure because it's this character, played by Scarlett Johansson. It's just really interesting. It's always a character that I've always I think the audience and myself included always wanted to know more about. We get hints of her past. We get hints. She talks about the Red Ledger, and just there's so many things. And the way that Scarlett Johansson portrays her is just it's always been such an interesting character. And of course, if you've seen Infinity War and Endgame, you see kind of the culmination of her journey and such a heroic gesture that she made. I don't want to spell it out for those 10 people who have on this earth who haven't watched Endgame, but because it would be spoilers. But for those of you who have watched it, know what a heroic act she made in that film, and she is the ultimate hero. That's her story, and of course we're going to be diving way deeper into her story, her backstory, who Natasha is as a person, as a hero, from her present to her past, and she's just a really interesting Avengers, a really interesting person, a really interesting character. So to be able to design her costumes throughout all these years, from Avengers to her next appearance in, what was it? Captain America Civil War? I think I'm right. Sorry, Captain America Winter Soldier is what I meant to say. And then after that was Avengers Age of Ultron. Then Captain America Civil War, Avengers Infinity War, and Avengers Endgame, and then in the upcoming solo film, Black Widow. I think I named all of her film appearances. So to be able to revisit her look again for this film, was great. And I'd love to talk about my thinking behind this costume. Maybe briefly. I can't go too into depth because I don't want to spoil anything for the film, but her costumes have always been very utilitarian. It's all about practicality. It's all about efficiency and getting the job done. She's a spy. She's adaptable in any situation. She's intelligent, brave, and sneaky, and she's got all the moves. So she's got that the look from the comic, which is very sleek. It's always pretty much black. That's why it was fun in this film to be able to tackle a suit that was the opposite, which is white. So she can't always hide and be stealthy in black, because there's certain situations where she might have to blend in with a white environment. So yeah, I'm drawing in all the details from her Black Widow film costume, her latest one. This one has a lot of gray in it. There's always black, but this one probably has more light gray or medium gray than any of her past films, and that was a nod to one of her designs in the Marvel comics back in the 80s. So I've always liked that look with the big collar, gray costume. And the other thing that I really wanted to infuse into this costume that she's never had, but she's always had in the comics, was her gold gauntlets and her gold belt. So those are two things that I was really happy that the director and the producers were totally happy to allow her to have gold. Because maybe in the past, gold was just a little bit too why gold? It's not very stealthy. It kind of stands out, but I think we found a good happy medium in doing gold, but it's not bling gold, jewelry gold. It's more weathered. It's more toned down. So it looks pretty awesome in the film. So I was really happy with the way it came out. So yeah, I'm drawing all the elements from the guns to the hands. The guns in the hands, as you notice, I drew last because the guns, hands are always challenging, and I want to get them right. So a lot of times I'll use reference, and in this case, I'm not showing it here, but I took photos of my hands holding a toy gun so that I can just kind of get that right. And I'm making some adjustments in the foot because I felt like she needs to look more like she's walking forward rather than flat-footed in the back foot. So that looks a little better with, she's on her toes in the back. I felt like her head was a little weird, tilted that way, so I straightened it out. I darkened the entire drawing. And again, as you can tell, I'm not thinking about, this whole drawing tutorial is not about how to do great, amazing line work, because it's really rough, as you can still tell. But, it's got enough detail that, you can tell what's going on. It's still interesting, but it's not, like a lot of times you see comics, they're really refined, nice, pretty line drawings. This, I would have to go another step and to make it really pretty, but that's not the point of this. It's more about how to draw. It's not so much how to ink or do pretty line art. And this one, I felt like I need to add a little bit of the tone, so that's why I added the darks for the blacks to suggest the blacks, and these grays for the grays. And then she has red hair, and the red color is dark, so that's why I felt like it needed that to kind of have this kind of completed look. And at this point, I felt like I want to do just a little bit more detail and refinement on the face. So I zoomed in a little bit. I don't want to go too much, and I'm just going to start cleaning up a little bit. This drawing is not about doing a drawing of Scarlett Johansson, because it's clearly not a likeness, but it's just more the essence of the character Black Widow rather than the actress, because that would be a whole nother tutorial in itself. But at this point, I'm trying to just add a little bit more detail, interest, refining a little, because I felt like it's just the face is the focus of any figure drawing that you do, character. So I just wanted to make it a little nicer, adding little details, a little bit of value, color. I think that adds a lot, and refining, just so that when you see the drawing, the rest of it can be really rough, and the face is still going to stay rough, but adding a little bit more detail, I think, just adds so much more. So when you're doing your drawings, just keep that in mind. People, we all tend to look at the face whenever we look at a drawing, if it's of a character. So you definitely want the head and the face to really be strong, and the rest can be rougher. It doesn't have to be as detailed as the rest, and it all kind of like holds together. And here I'm kind of just chiseling out because I felt like there was too much cranium, too much hair on top and the sides. So that's just refining. And it's, I really love just drawing faces, painting faces. In my job as a concept designer, I'm not really drawing as much as I am painting. So what you're seeing me do here is not really something that I do on my day-to-day job, because at this point I'll start painting and adding colors and using more brush strokes. So you can see the difference. I just went on and off with that layer to show the before and after. And so at this point I feel pretty good. I feel pretty good about this drawing. I think it's, again, like I could spend another hour refining this even more, adding textures and all that stuff, but this is just to get an overall drawing. You're seeing me flip the canvas a lot, and basically that is just to see my mistakes. When you see something in a different perspective, that's when you see, oh, one eye is lower than the other. So I definitely advise you guys to constantly flip your canvas, or hold it up to a light or look at it in a mirror. I hope this has helped, because it's definitely a fun one. Fun character for me to draw. And right there I added Scarlett Johansson's mole. Again, I'm not claiming that that's a great likeness of Scarlett Johansson, but it hasn't. If you were to see this character or this drawing, most people would say, oh, that's Black Widow. Like, they would know who it is. They might not necessarily say that's Scarlett Johansson, but they'll know this is Black Widow. So that's what I was trying to accomplish. And the last thing that I'll do, and that everyone out there should do after they draw it, they don't have to do it all the time, but 2020, Andy Park, that's my signature. And yeah, there you go. If you want to see more of my drawings and my paintings, the stuff that I do at Marvel Studios, please check out my social media at Andy Park Art on Instagram, Twitter, and YouTube. Well, I hope to see your drawings. I would love to see your take on Black Widow or any other Marvel Studios hero or villain. And please tag me, because I'd love to check it out. I'll try to make whatever comments or critique that I can. But keep drawing out there, stay safe, and I hope to see all your awesome drawings very, very soon. Take care.